everybody, I hope you're really well. My name's Tusky Light. I am going to go through today an idea of what it is like going through the awakening. So going through the fourth dimension, what to expect in the fourth dimension, and going through to 5D after that, and the fact that we time shift and we wobble a little bit and we can go in and out of each. We can go 5D, 4D, 5D, 4D, 5D, 3D, 3D, 4D. We can keep doing that until our emotions, our balance, our spiritual, our body, all of our mental causal bodies, everything is stable, and we finally reach 5D for good. In between that we're messing, but there is a space in 4D that we have to go through to get through to 5D. Now, a lot of people call this Night of the Dark Soul. I went through it. A lot of people go through it when you have a Kundalini Awakening. Now, it can happen very, very quickly for some people. Once that snake wakes up and starts to set off your Kundalini and rise up through your chakras and open your chakras, you can go through it in a few weeks or a few months and you won't know what's hit you. It's horrendous at times because you have to go through the 4D aspect of it. Other times, some light workers have been awake for 20, 25, 30 years, and for them it has been a very natural, slow progression, one that at times they've hardly even noticed going through it. But at the moment, because of the awakening, because this is leading up to the event, or is part of the event, the actual awakening of all of us, then a lot of people awaken up very, very quickly. And luckily, there is so many people out there now on YouTube and on the internet. Thank goodness for the internet, so that we can share information that can help you. When I woke up over 4 years ago, I couldn't get help from anyone. I did not have a Scooby what was going on with me. I did not understand what was happening to me. I'd never heard a Night of the Dark Soul. I'd never heard of an awakening, Kundalini, anything. I did not get it. It took, and I think the way we are all predestined, like a little timer switch, like there's going to be an alarm clock that goes off with you, and when it goes off, you're going to wake up. The details and the structure and the way that you wake up is predestined. You've signed that before. You decided that before you came down here. So as part of my awakening, I wasn't allowed to get any help from anybody else. I was not made aware of it. It came in eventually, and I did get help. But at the beginning, I was put in isolation, and I wasn't allowed to. That was my soul, part of my soul contract, to learn it like that. And I am glad that I did it like that, because I had to learn. I had to learn to be in touch with my guides and angels. I had to strengthen my connection with them, even subconsciously, even though I didn't know, I was fully aware of what I was doing, in order to bring the information through that I needed it, and to be in a position today of being able to teach it and help others as part of my path as well. So don't laugh at me. This morning I got out my daughter's colours and I did a diagram because I wanted to go through this. In fact, there's actually a hole in the heart chakra there when I find it, because I managed to scrub so hard with the green one. So there's a nice little hole in there. I've taken a picture of this so that we can go through it, but I've written out as much as I possibly can. This at the bottom here is your Kundalini Awakening. We've got the 5 subtle bodies. There's actually more than 5 subtle bodies, but I didn't have enough room on the paper to do them all. I was running out of space. We also have much more than 7 chakras as well, but I tried to keep it as simple as I can. I am not the greatest artist in the world, but I wanted some sort of diagram. I wanted some sort of help here. And if you can see here, I've got all the stuff going up into the 4th dimension here, what goes on. And this is a fraction of what goes on, because you have to remember that every single person has a different way of going through it. You will experience different things than I did. I will experience different things than somebody else did. A lot of it's very similar, but depending on what your gifts are as well that are coming through, the most strongest depends on how you're experiencing going through the fourth dimension, whether you're clairaudient, psychic, whatever your strength is within your gift that comes through first. That will also, for me, for instance, a lot of people are clairaudient, so they can hear spirits coming through to them, they can hear voices, they can hear changes in the atmosphere around them, things like that. For me, my third eye was extremely strong. My vision, my third eye vision was extremely strong, and I can't remember the name of it. Clair vision was extremely strong. So I wasn't particularly hearing things, I was seeing things, and I was not only seeing things through my mind's eye like it was a dream. I was physically manipulating circumstances and people around me, and things were playing out in front of me in a very, very physical way, which took me a long time to understand and get my head round. Really did. So I'm going to put this picture up, and we're just going to go through it and see how it goes, and hopefully this will help. This is, I mean, it looks like a child has drawn it. In fact, I should have given it to my daughter. She would have done a much better job than I did. But if this can make it more simple for people to get through, then hey, I've done my bit. So I'll put up this picture and we'll go through it. Okay, I really hope you can see the picture. It doesn't look particularly clear to me, but I drew that. It took me ages. Took me ages, but I'm going to go through it. So if we start at the bottom, you can see that figure at the bottom, and you can see that around the figure of that person there is 5 sort of bands of colour that come around. These are your subtle bodies that are with you at all times. There is an etheric body, an emotional body, the mental body, the causal body, and the soul body or spiritual body. There is actually more than that, but as I said, I couldn't fit them all on, but those are some of the main ones. Now, something very important when you start to meditate, these auras start to expand, and this is what happens when you are in other people's company or you are around other people, and I say that you can have an effect on them. It's these subtle bodies, the expansion of them as you're going through things, as you're rising up into 5D. Those subtle bodies of yours which have expanded start to have an effect on people around you. For the most part, normal people, you know, the first body that is there, the etheric body, which is the first band that you can see around the body, it's only sort of between 1 and 3 inches away from your body. The next one is only sort of 4 to 8 inches, and so on as it moves out. But by meditation, through the Kundalini Awakening, by clearing your chakras, everything is all connected, starts to expand the auras. You can take pictures of the auras, usually the first one, the etheric. Some people have, Curliac cameras that can take a picture of that aura, so it can physically be seen. Also, as your gifts are developing, you may be able to see the auras of people around you, or you may be able to see them on animals as you start to shift your perception as you go through. Now, I can see occasionally, I can see the auras of birds. I can see the auras of animals. You may be able to see the auras on people. I may be able to see the auras on people in time, especially if they're stood against a white background and you just sort of look just to the side of them, just to the side of their head. Don't look directly at them. Let your eyes go slightly out of focus. This helps to train you to be able to see somebody else's aura. Some of you will be able to do it naturally, but if you want to practice seeing somebody's aura or an animal's aura, this would be how you do it. Get them up against a white background. Just look literally sort of head height to them, just slightly off to the side. Let your eyes go out of focus so you're not particularly looking at anything hard. You know, when you get that blurry look that goes onto your eyes. There are some books you can get, or these pictures, these 3D pictures that you can get, and you stare at them and it's a load of dots or stars or different colours. And if you let your eyes go out of focus and stare at them for long enough, then a picture jumps out from the centre. This is exactly the same thing. You let your eyes go like that, as if you were looking at the picture, and that trains your eyes to be able to start to see auras. Some of you will need to practice. Some of you in time will just naturally be able to do this as part of your gift. To say, I can see auras on birds occasionally, and animals, which is not something that I've particularly practiced. It's just a gift that is slowly growing within me. Now, if you look at, we've got the chakras as well, as you can see, starting from the root chakra and working up right up to the crown chakra. And you can see the little green snake next to it. That's your Kundalini. That's your Kundalini waking up. What happens? It's coiled 3.5 times right down at the base of your spine. And at a predestined time for you, when you decided you were going to wake up through a series of events, through a traumatic period in your life, that snake starts to rise. And as it rises, it touches through each chakra, energizing each chakra, activating each chakra. Usually starts from the root and works its way up. Very occasionally it can swap places, but that's usually the way that it will go. If it comes across a block or something in the way with one of those chakras, that's your blockage. You will start to experience pain. You will start to have physical problems, mental, emotional. Because it's a blockage there in the chakra, it's going to affect those subtle bodies that are around you as well. And these are going to come out as different symptoms that are associated with the chakra which is blocked. So, for example, if it's hitting the root chakra and there's a problem with the root chakra, you could start to have a problem with your menstrual cycle. You could have a sex addiction. You could have very, very deep-seated fear, a lack of grounding, a lack of security, so it could hit your finances in some way, and it affects the subtle aura bodies around it as well. So in one way or another, it will hit you in a physical sense, so you're feeling, maybe having pain down there, having bladder problems down there, infections, that sort of thing. It can fit your emotional, so you've got fear, you've got deep-seated emotional issues to do with sex or trauma that will start to come up. It will hit each one in a different way, and it'll hit each person in a different way. Now, it doesn't have to be a blockage. As the snake, as the Kundalini is rising, when it hits that chakra, it has to open it. One way or the other, that chakra has to open. So initially, you're going to go through all of that and more or less, depending on what is stored in that chakra and what's blocked there in order to open it. This is why we do meditations on the chakras, because once it's opened, we don't want it to become re-blocked. Because believe me, once you go through a Kundalini awakening, especially if it's extremely quick, if you go through that, and you have to go through Night of the Dark Soul, etc., etc., going through the lower dimensional, fourth dimensional plane. You don't want to go through it again. You want to keep it as clear as possible. You come to understand that meditation is extremely important. Positive output is very important. Controlling your thoughts is very important. So this is what happens. So this snake, which is metaphorical, by the way, this energy, this Kundalini energy, which if you want to put into a picture would appear as a snake, rises up through each chakra. It activates each chakra as it rises, and eventually it goes up to your third eye. Your third eye opens, and then it goes into your crown chakra. Once it hits your crown chakra opens up, and it's like bright white light shooting up to the divine, the creator, the fifth dimension, your connection with your guides and angels, your spirit guides, your Christ consciousness, and lots of other things. But in order for it to reach the fifth dimension, it has to go through. Remember, we are in 3D. Excuse me. Remember, we are in 3D at the moment. We have to raise our bodies from 3D into 4D, then into 5D. And actually, we can go 6D, 7D, 8D, 9D, 10D, 11D, 12D. There are 12 dimensions. But for the moment, Gaia and part of our revolution, part of our ascension is raising up to 5D. Now, some of us can go higher than 5D. Some of us can go up to 6, 7, 8 and back down to 5. If you are seeing benevolent ETs, then you are higher than 5th dimension. You are going into 6, 7, 8, depending on whichever dimension you're going into is dependent on the type of interdimensional or extra dimensional creature that you're going to meet, because they are associated with different dimensions, different parallels as it happens. So, but let's stick to the 4th and the 5th. And of course, as all of this is activating, you are also activating your 12-strand DNA, which is your junk DNA, which scientists says, all the scientists say it's a load of junk. It's not a load of junk at all. The body does not create junk to have it there. The junk DNA is your 12 strands of DNA, which is your spiritual gifts that are coming through, your ability to heal your own body, your ability to manifest, all of the things that have been lost to us over thousands of years due to control, slavery, suppression of our gifts, suppression of mankind through one way or the other of control. All of this has been suppressed. This is now starting to reawaken within us and is coming to the fore again. So the DNA is starting to reawaken as well, which is bringing in the gifts, which is taking us higher. So first of all, if you have woken up over nice and slowly over a number of years, that has been the way that you decided when you come in that was how you were going to wake up. For others who have a sudden Kundalini awakening, it's going to start off with maybe a near-death experience, some sort of extreme trauma or abuse, or something that really kicks your butt. It can be a series of things. You lose your job, you lose your friends, you lose your home, you lose everything, starts to crumble like the tower moment. This is part of the start of the Kundalini awakening as you are clearing through the blockages and your chakras. Some of you, like I was, will be put into isolation. That means you've lost your job, you've lost your friends, you are not on the same vibration as any of your friends. They're dropping away around you. You cannot understand why that is happening to you, because one minute you were getting on okay and the next minute they're stabbing you in the back or gossiping about you or just literally turning their back on you, or you're talking to them and suddenly you do not understand each other. You're not on the same wavelength anymore. This happened to me. You are going through it. This is the start of the awakening. When you go into the fourth dimension, as you raise up, you are going to start to go through a bit of karma. You are going to be clearing past lives for yourself, for your family. You're clearing for the collective. You're clearing for your individual monad group as well. You start to clear programming that you have been through on, depending on your social environment, whether it is religion, TV, the school you went to, the education system, the government, the controls that were put on you, the conditioning that your parents put you through. And your parents do not do this deliberately, bless them. They were programmed too as well. This is another thing about having to let go of what we have been through and forgive, because it's not their fault. They were programmed too. They were also brought in to help you with your awakening. That was part of their soul contract, to help you learn lessons. This is all divinely, exactly orchestrated at the exact in divine time. So there are parts of your life that you need, well, all parts of your life that you've gone through that you need to forgive and move on from, and forgive yourself. Okay? So we are clearing all these different things. This is why we are spaced out strategically across the world, across the planet. We are all in different places, and we are clearing for our collective, our local collective. We are clearing for others around us, our family members, also especially twin flames. Twin flames are slightly different in regards to light workers and indigos and crystal seeds. We each come to have our own contract and decide which path we're going to go down. Now we all go through the same, we all go down, we all get to the same destination, we all become awakened. But for twin flames, we will start out as indigo children, star seeds, crystal children, and then we branch out from there. When we go through that immense Kundalini awakening, it is because usually a twin flame, the person we come to find as our twin flame, has been also a catalyst to kick off the awakening process for us. And we are doing things, we are clearing things in a slightly different way than light workers, but that does not mean we are any more important or any less important. We just all have different roles to play through this, but we are all going through the ascension process. So in the lower fourth dimension, as we move up, we start to move through addictions. So if you're drinking, smoking, eating processed foods, on antidepressants, on heavy medications, your guides and angels will start to help you move through those addictions, and they will start to fall away. At the same time you are doing this, you have an ego, and your ego is going to fight tooth and nail to hold on to what it is known to it, to what the safety is of how you've always known things. This is where the ego starts to fall away. This is your night of the dark soul. So you start to let go of addictions. You start to let go of the ego. You start to realize that you don't need money, that the materialism starts to drop, judgment starts to drop of others and yourself. You are putting into isolation for the most part, definitely for the first part of this that happens. So your job will fall away if it's not serving you. People, boyfriends, girlfriends, karmic relationships, your twin flame, you could end up your twin flame dropping you and you going into separation. While you spiritually grow away from each other, you cannot do this together. It's too traumatic. and you cannot grow spiritually. You can grow spiritually together when you are nearly through the process. This is when you come back and unite. But in the meantime, you are kept in separation so that you can both separately go through your own lessons, learn your own spiritual ascension, and then come back together. This actually speeds the process up. If you stayed together during this period, you wouldn't make it through. You wouldn't make it through. There's too much going on in your body, in your mind, in all of your subtle bodies, in your chakras. There's too much to deal with here. Also, as you're going through Night of the Dark Soul, the lower fourth dimension has a barrier to it, or as I understand it, it has a barrier to it. As you become awake, as your subtle bodies expand and your chakras start to pop open, the darker side of things start to notice that you are breaking out of the control system. So they start to notice, and they come in, and they're in the lower fourth dimension, and there is this barrier here. This is when you have to start fighting your own inner demons and go through Night of the Dark Soul. This is where you have to be brave. This is where you get through things. You cannot get up to fifth dimension easily. It's a fight. This is the hero's journey that you may have heard of before. I think I've done a video on it in the past. I might re-upload it as well for you. David Wilcock. If you look up David Wilcock, he speaks about the hero's journey. But this is the part where you are going in and you are fighting unknown forces. Fighting demons, fighting unknown things that you have never seen before, never heard before. Now with me, it was very physical. As you are going through this, you are also activating your gifts. As you are activating your gifts and going into lower fourth dimension, you are starting to see and hear things that you've never heard or seen before. And they're scary because you're seeing them through your third eye, because you're actually physically manifesting situations as well, and you don't understand why it's happening or why you're doing it. As I was going through this, I was still watching TV at the beginning. I was still watching thrillers, horror films, reading books that I probably shouldn't have been reading, all of that sort of thing. I started manifesting clowns everywhere. As soon as I was in lower fourth dimension, I started seeing clowns. I would think about a clown and I would suddenly look out my window and one would be walking down the road physically. Or I'd look up and there'd be one across the road looking out the window at me physically. This is why I say it's going to be different for everybody, but for me, I had physical situations I was coming across. Because I was manifesting, I didn't know how to control my thoughts. I didn't know I had to control my thoughts. I didn't relate the two things together. So if I thought about a scary clown because I just watched some horror film, then that scary clown appeared. If I thought about a bad situation, it manifested. I've got loads and loads of examples of things that I went through, and some of them I don't even feel I want to repeat on YouTube because they were pretty traumatic. So as you're going through this, your gifts are starting to develop, but you don't know how to control your clairaudience, your clairvoyance, your manifestation skills, because you don't know how to control your thoughts. You don't know that you need to do that. Also, there's because there's a barrier there, and the darker side have been alerted to the fact that you are waking up, and they do not want you to get into they don't want you in 5D. They're going to do everything they can to stop you getting there, you know. So if they can get you to go back to the doctors and double your antidepressants and smoke more or commit suicide or fall in a heap with drink, that's what they're going to do, because that stops you waking up. This is where your battle comes in with things. There's also, I went through a very, very intense period of feeling like I was being watched 24 hours a day. Like somebody was stood right behind me watching me all the time. And it was so unnerving. I ripped out. And because I was manifesting things and things were repeating themselves and the synchronicities were also coming up, which I didn't understand at the time, I thought somebody had bugged my car. I ripped my car door seat out looking for bugs within it because I swore that that was what was going on. If I said something, it appeared. If I thought something, it appeared. All sorts of things. And this is because, one, I'm in the lower fourth dimension, and two, because I did not realise, I did not make that connection between manifesting things and my thoughts actually manifesting things into the thing. A lot of targeted individuals, we've heard about targeted individuals for a long time. I thought I was a targeted individual, and I went through the process of experiencing things that would make me think I'm a targeted individual as well. The feeling of being watched, my emails going down, being followed, having things repeat themselves, etc., etc. To me, when I look at targeted, because a lot of targeted individuals see the numbers as well. So to me, when I look at a targeted individual and I hear their story, they're in the lower fourth dimension, and they don't understand that that is where they are. They don't understand. They try and put it in a physical box. Now, yes, there are organisations out there that do this, that do target individuals. I'm not disputing that at all. But for some of you who are not being governmentally targeted, you think you're being targeted, but what is actually happening is you're in the lower fourth dimension and you're trying to be stopped. You're trying to be stopped from ascending to reaching that Christ consciousness. So sometimes when I look at a targeted individual and some of the stories I hear them come out with, I can relate back to when I was going through my awakening. And the stories are quite similar in some ways. So we've gone through that. We go through isolation possibly for some of them, for some of you, which is needed because you need to spiritually learn. You need to go inwards. You need to work on your darker side of things. You will also see ghosts. You will see spirits. You will also, at this point, whether you are in lower fourth or upper fourth as well, it goes for upper fourth as well, you may see fourth dimensional creatures. So you will see big black fat spiders in the corner of your room, or you'll see black snakes go up the wall, or you will see clowns and goodness knows what else. These are fourth dimensional creatures. They cannot harm you. They cannot harm you. They cannot touch you. They are of a different vibration to you, but you are passing through their vibration. These are the sort of creatures that subconsciously, unknowingly feed off your fear, feed off your emotions, feed off your lower chakra feelings. But they are just like cockroaches in the third dimension, or they are just like normal spiders in the third dimension. This is just the way they are in the fourth dimension. They're just creatures, and that is how they survive. They do not deliberately want to harm you, but you are feeding them, and they will quite happily feed off those lower feelings. If you see one as you're passing through this dimension, and you could be going through the lower or upper fourth, lower fourth dimension for months, or you could be going through it for weeks. This is why you need to move through it as quickly as you possibly can and fight to get through it. The longer you hold on to the fear, the longer you hold on to your doubts, your ego, your addictions, everything else, the more you're going to stay in that lower fourth. Okay, so you're going to see fourth dimensional creatures, you can see ghosts, you can see spirits. Sometimes you are going to have electrical problems. Your computer is going to continually break down. You're going to get electric shocks off things when you touch them. Your microwave is going to blow up. You shouldn't have a microwave in the house anyway. Please, if you've got one, get rid of it. Things are going to fall apart around you. This is normal. This is normal. And unfortunately, at the same time as all of that is going on, your gifts are developing. So it's extremely important to learn forgiveness, starting to love unconditionally from the heart chakra, starting to learn and balance your thoughts and think positively. All of those things are going to bring you up through the fourth into the fifth. But it's very confusing at the beginning. You will then, and you will go through anger, you will go through sadness. Some of you will, as you are going through this dimension on a 3D basis, you'll start to come across conspiracy theories because you've stopped watching the TV. You know that that's programming. You know that you've got to stay away from the negative. You come to, at some point, to sort of understand that. The next thing you do, and it seems to be a process with most of us as we go through it, we start to need to understand what is really going on in the world. What's really going on with the government? What's really going on? Who are the royal family? Who are the, why do we keep having threats of war and guns and killings and false flags and all of that sort of thing? We start to look at these conspiracy theories. Now, we can get stuck, and we can get stuck at any point on this journey. We can get stuck in I was stuck in conspiracy theories for nearly 2 years before I finally moved out of them. Now, when I first started watching them, I thought they were going to happen immediately. It was like, oh my God, we're going to have an economic collapse. Everything's going to go down. I need to save. I need to store food. I need to do this. I need to do that. It really used to freak me out. When I learnt there were reptilians on Earth, oh my goodness, did I freak. There were conspiracy theories that I came across and there is a lot of truth within conspiracy theories as well. Conspiracy theory was a term that was made up by the FBI, I think, in order to deter people away from it. Once you start learning the real history of things, what words really mean, why we are all under maritime law, don't even get me started on that one, but we get into these and we start learning. So the conspiracy theories, for the most part, are true, especially about our history. And you start to learn this and you go through sadness, you go through extreme anger. How on earth could our government, our rulers, how can they do this to us? And we go through and we're back into lower chakra feelings again. And that's exactly where the fourth dimension wants to keep us. And if they can keep us stuck in these conspiracy theories, that stops us shifting. Yeah? That would stop us shifting. So, I was stuck in them for about 2 years, close on. It's a few months ago, I pretty much stopped with them. I sort of forced myself, weaned myself off them, and realised that I don't have to watch things like that. And I understood why, because I had to learn about the real history of things. I had to learn about what was really going on. But at the same time, once you've learnt it, let it go. Just let it go. So, diet changes is another thing. You will start to be feeling the energies so much when they come in. You will be feeling the solar waves, the energy waves. You will be feeling the energy of the full moon every time it comes around. Mercury retrograde, the new moon, whatever's going on in your planets, it will all affect you differently. Lunar eclipses, solar eclipses, total eclipses, all of that, you start to feel them on a very profound, deep level. And every time they come around, anything that still needs to be cleared, they will try, you know, your guides and angels will try and clear that for you, and they will use a total eclipse, solar eclipse, full moon as a jumping point for you to shift dimensions. So in the beginning, when I was going through things, I had a lot of dietary changes, because when you're eating meat and you're eating processed food, it keeps you in a heavier density. It keeps you grounded in 3D, really. In order to raise and go through the ascension process, your diet has to change, has to get more organic, has to get cleaner. So I would find, especially in the beginning, that every time we went through an eclipse or a full moon, I'd wake up the next morning and I'd be dropping something from my diet. So I'd be dropping beef from my diet, and then I'd drop lamb from my diet, and then I'd drop chicken eventually, and I was dropping bacon. I was also stopping drinking. I was stopping taking antidepressants. I was going through all of that. And you go through it in stages. You can go through it very quickly, as I did, or you can go through it a lot slower over the years, or months, or a few years. But if it's an extreme Kundalini awakening, they really push you. But again, it was your decision to do that. You may not remember that it was your decision to do it, but it was. And this is what you are now fulfilling. You have come down here to raise the ascension of the earth, to help Mother Gaia move up. And that's your job, that's your mission. You just need to remember what you're doing. So, once we have got through the hero's journey, through the fourth dimension, we start to come into Christ consciousness. We start to shift into the fifth dimension. And remember what I said earlier, depending on where your vibration is and what's going on, it's quite hard for us to continually maintain a fifth dimensional consciousness, because we're in a human body. But as the energy waves become stronger and keep coming through, and you experience synchronicities as well, obviously, and you can have synchronicities going through the fourth dimension, but dependent on what your thoughts are going to reflect the synchronicity that you receive. So as we go through up into the fifth dimension, we've got through the barrier, we've got through the darker side. So as we move up, we are starting to let go of the lower fourth dimension and move up into the upper fourth dimension and into the fifth. Within the lower fourth dimension is where all the ghosts and ghoulies and the spirit world, all of the nastier stuff, the soul targeting, the fear, they can't raise up any further, because their vibration, their density is lower fourth. Once we have moved up past the lower fourth, then you are through that. They're not going to bother you anymore. Your psychic attacks, your fear of things, you're seeing disgustingly horrible creatures around, is going to stop, even to a certain extent, unless it's being done by the government. What you think is targeting will stop, because you have got through that. The dark side, they're all stood there going, oh, damn it, they got through. Damn, they moved through it. We thought we'd got them, they moved through. You were strong, you were brave, you carried on, you meditated, you changed your diet, you got off the prescription drugs, you started to exercise, you started to forgive and let go of things and let go of you went through all of that, and you go through to the fifth dimension. Once we get through to the fifth, this is the event, this is the shift in consciousness. Now we are all going through this on a different level at a different time. We are shifting parallels. At times we're going between the two of them, as I said, because it's very hard to stay in the fifth dimension all the time. But this is what we are doing. And when we get up to the fifth dimension, this is where you have got telepathy with your twin flame. This is your Christ consciousness, where you are at one with everyone, with the world, with the universe. You are then in touch with higher benevolent beings who come from, so if you're in the fifth dimension, if you're anchored in the fifth dimension, you can then have benevolent beings from the sixth, seventh, eighth come down, because you have raised your vibration, come down to meet you a little bit. So once we get up there, then we've got guides, we've got angels. We come to 0 point in the middle, where we understand that there is no good without evil. As long as we keep everything in balance, come to that 0 point, become the observer of things, we can step into that fifth dimension and become an observer instead of a participant in anything bad that is going on around us. Our thoughts have shifted. They are now, most of the time, if not all of the time, very positive. We have put complete faith in ourselves and the universe, our higher self, and we are starting to manifest. And we're starting to manifest positively because we understand how to control our thoughts. We understand that if we want to manifest something, we concentrate on it for at least 17 seconds. We come to understand that our aura, that our energy can have an effect on people around us and can actually awaken people around us after a while as well. We are living according to the universal laws, which I have gone through in the past. If you look up on the thing, on the channel, and all of this is moving us into a fifth dimension. We are not going to turn into stardust and float off into the stars when this shift happens, when the event happens. We are down here in a physical body, but we want to raise our consciousness to a point where we are living in positivity and love and unconditional love every day. That is what is changing the world. This is what you're here for. When you get into this state, you are no longer going to pay attention or hear about World War III or bombs going off or people dying, or you are going to be an observer. You are not going to be involved in any of that. You are not going to feel the fear, the anxiety of anything. You are going to recognize false flags for what they are. You are going to realize that if you pay things like that attention, then you are adding to the universal consciousness of fear, and that too can manifest. By putting peace and forgiveness out into the world, that manifests. And the more of us that go through the awakening, it gets to the 100th monkey thing, where the tipping point, the 51% of people are waking up and us turning around and saying we're not having that anymore. It's at this point disclosure comes through. It's at this point the new technologies start to come through. The cures for cancer that have always been there come through. And it's at this point you start to see the pharmaceutical companies, the governments, the present money systems, everything like that, the arrests of the cabal, paedophilia, everything nasty, human trafficking, all of that is starting to be brought down and stopped. And some of you may think that's not possible, but it is. Because when there are enough of us awakening, and there will be because of this awakening we're going through, because we are now into the age of Aquarius, where there is only truth. And any untruths, anything deceitful, anybody lying, the truth comes to light with them. The light, we shine a light on it, and it is brought about and is stopped. These people, these organisations, anything less than them being of service to others and helping humanity are going to be removed. And this is because the majority of us will be moving up into fifth dimension, and we do not want a world like that at that point. We have lived within the suppression of that for hundreds if not thousands of years during the age of Pisces. So now we move into the age of Aquarius. We are regaining our gifts that were suppressed, and it's learning to cope with them, it's learning to adjust to them, and it's learning to develop them as well. and be thankful, so thankful for them, and learning how to have faith and trust in the universe. Whew. So I hope that helps, because I went off on a right tangent then, but and everyone will, there will be certain things within the fourth dimension and the fifth dimension that are all the same to all of us, but there will be variations. Dark night of the soul, when you go through it, there will be variations of that for you, but we all go through it. So if you need help through the awakening, if you are stuck in some sort of fourth dimension, if you're going through night of the dark soul, if you are having problems with your twin flame, all of that sort of thing, get in touch. Book a healing and clearing. That is extremely important if you are in the lower fourth dimension as you are raising up, because your crown chakra has opened. You have got angels, guides, past family members, your twin connection, your Christ consciousness, all of this beautiful unconditional love pouring into your crown chakra, but you become an open vessel. So at the same time you are an open vessel, if you are going through the fourth, the same just as the guides and angels can get through to you, so can the lower fourth parasites, entities, attachments. They can come through as well, because suddenly you are an open portal, and this is why it happens. This is why you have to be very careful of who you mix with, the people that you are mixing with, to clear your aura as often as possible. Have Epsom salt baths, wear crystals, learn the importance of shielding yourself, having psychic protection as you go through this. There does come a point where it won't bother you anymore, because you've raised yourself too high, your vibration, your frequency has become too high, but you have to pass through that other part first. It's the hero's journey. So if you're going through that and you are having problems with that, healings and clearings are brilliant for getting rid of things. It really clears out your chakras. It starts to unhinge any parasites that you've got, lower dimensional, lower chakra feelings. It helps you to let go of the past, and it helps you to let go of people and places and things that are not serving you. It speeds up the process. In speeding up the process, it also brings you closer to your twin flame in the fifth. Once you are in the fifth dimension, and you are both up into the fifth dimension, you are coming into unity at that point. You don't have to be 100% cleared, but you have to be nearly up there. This is also a question of timing. In the time that is right for the both of you, that you are both pre-decided, that is when you will be together. But when you are in a position to be able to accept and go with more the stronger and stronger energy waves that are coming through for you to help you, to assist you, it gets you through quicker. So I am going for a cup of tea. Namaste. I really hope this helps you. Take care. Hi. Well, I don't think I've ever spoken for that long. But it needed, once I got going on that, I think I started channeling it as well a little bit, and I needed to get through it. It's important for people to understand, especially if you're going through it for the first time. If you've got any questions, put them down below. I am going to start doing live YouTube more often. I need to get over my nerves with that, because I get quite nervous doing it, and sometimes I can't get my words out properly when I'm doing it. This is why it's far easier to stick a picture up and I can just go for it. But I am going to start doing them more. But start putting it, if you've got questions about it, email me or drop your questions below. Speak to each other about it, share your comments, get in touch together, because you are all going to be at different stages, at different times, different parallels, shifting timelines, doing all of this, you know, feeling the effects of the energies that are coming through, and these energies are just going to get stronger and stronger. Okay, and we need to know how to deal with them, and most of us are doing a pretty good job. You out there are amazing and fantastic, and you're getting it, and it's brilliant. and I'm really proud of you, really, really proud of you. If you want to book anything, if you need anything, click up on my website in the corner, share as much as you can with other people that you think are going through the awakening as well, or a Kundalini or a twin flame. And yeah, I love all of you unconditionally.